Hey you, are you feeling tired?
Yeah, I mean, I really haven't been able to sleep lately,
It
and
was a yes or no question.
okay.
Does the daily grind have you feeling worn out, exhausted, and like you have no energy at all? Is water just not cutting it anymore? Are you tired of the smug way bears look at
Wait,
you?
what?
Well then you need Grizzly Rage. With our super secret proprietary formula and over 700 milligrams of caffeine per serving, you'll be energized in no time. You'll be up and running and feeling great. Hell, you might even take off your shirt and fight a fucking bear. Try it.
Mm. Oh God, it tastes like battery acid.
You want energy, don't you?
Yeah, but
Then drink it.
oh God, this is terrible. What's in this?
Well, it's definitely not bear piss if that's what you're asking.
Wait, what? Is there bear piss in this?
Never mind, how are you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, actually, and now that you mention it, I am feeling pretty good. Feeling pretty energized.
See, I told you.
All right, yeah, let's go climb a fucking mountain.
So when you're feeling tired or a bear looks at you wrong, grab a can of Grizzly Rage. Grizzly Rage. Go fight a fucking bear.
What's going on, everyone? Well, the weather sure has been nice lately, so I thought we could go ahead and take advantage of that and maybe go for a hike. You guys up for it? All right, well, today we'll be looking at Day of the Animals. Also, make sure to stick around till the end for some fun facts. Now, if you've watched my other videos but didn't quite make it to the end, there's fun facts at the end of those too, so go check them out. Oh, and before I forget, welcome to VHS on Tape. My name is Keith, and on this channel I do movie reviews for horror movies that came out in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. If that sounds like something you might be into, hit that subscribe button. Also click the bell icon, that way you'll be notified when I upload awesome new videos. Okay, so now I would definitely classify Day of the Animals as a lesser known horror movie. It came out on May 13th, 1977, and has a running time of 1 hour and 37 minutes. It's a Nature Strike Back kind of horror movie. I think it's kind of like a mix between The Birds and Maximum Overdrive. Now, I'm not saying machines attack people in this movie, but it's just that in The Birds, birds start attacking people for no reason. In Maximum Overdrive, which is a great movie, by the way, if you haven't seen it, machines are affected by a comet passing by and start attacking people. In this movie, a hole in the ozone causes animals to start attacking people. Those are just two movies that I thought of when I was watching this one. Day of the Animals was directed by William Girdler. He also directed Grizzly, which apparently some people think of this movie as kind of an unofficial sequel to that movie. I mean, it's not, but I guess since both movies have animals attacking people, although Grizzly just has a bear attacking people, but they also have the same director, distributing company, and a couple of the same actors in it. But it's not a sequel. Also, I thought I'd mention this was filmed in Todd AO35, which is basically a type of widescreen format, just in case you're curious. The movie starts off with a scrolling message explaining that in 1974, Dr. Sherwood Rowland and Mario Molina shared their scientific findings that CFC gases were damaging the ozone layer. Now, this is a real thing. These two really did this. And now I'd like to take a minute and actually thank these two for the great work that they did. It goes on to say that since the ozone layer is being damaged, dangerous amounts of UV rays are reaching our planet, adversely affecting all living things. And that this movie dramatizes what could happen if we continue to do nothing to stop the damage to the ozone layer. It's kind of like Slithis in this regard, where they touch on toxic waste. It's kind of cool to see movies, horror movies no less, from this time period, bringing up environmental concerns. Now the movie starts off with a bunch of shots of animals with crazy lens flare going on. We then meet Steve, played by Christopher George. He was also in Grizzly. We find out that he has taken a group of people on a survival hike for 2 weeks, where they aren't going to be bringing any food or weapons, hence the survival part, but that there are food drops just in case of emergencies. Next, we meet Ranger Tucker, played by Walter Barnes. Tucker tells Steve that there have been more animal attacks lately and that he needs to be careful on the hike. Now, I also want to mention that the look of this film is kind of weird at times. There's parts where it looks really hazy. I mean, we'll see an example of that later. Then we meet the group, and it's kind of a big one. First, we have Santee on the left, played by Michael Anzara. He helps Steve out on these hikes. Talking to him is Jensen, played by the great Leslie Nielsen. I think most people know him from The Naked Gun, so it's kind of easy to forget that before he was doing comedy, he did more serious work. We find out that he's in advertising. Next, we meet Frank, played by John Cedar, and his wife Mandy, played by Susan Backlund. And I do have to point out that she was a woman who was killed swimming in the beginning of Jaws. We find out that they are there because Frank cares more about his law firm than apparently he does her.
If you paid more attention to me and a little less to your law office, Frank, we wouldn't need this trip.
Then we have Bob, played by Andrew Stevens, and his girlfriend Beth, played by Kathleen Bracken. Then we meet the professor, played by Richard Jackal? Or the Jackal?
A jackal! Jackal! It's a jackal!
Behind him is Terry Marsh, played by Linda Day George. She's a news anchor. Then we meet John, played by Bobby Porter, and his mom Shirley, played by Ruth Roman. And Bobby Porter was actually 24 when they filmed this. He's got a rough macho thing going on here. You know, he was 23 in The Karate Kid. After everyone gets loaded into the helicopters, we are treated to some pretty scenic views. And that is something that this movie has a bit of, scenic shots, and nice ones. Here we also meet Roy Moore, played by Paul Manty. Roy is an ex-NFL player with a bad knee. Here we also see that animals are tracking the humans. When the group stops to take a rest, they find that the birds are acting kind of weird. One even lands right next to John. Steve and Santee share with each other that they've never seen anything like that before. We cut to Tucker grabbing some lunch when a news announcement comes on the TV talking about the ozone layer being damaged and that they don't know yet what the effects will be on living things. But that people should stay inside, especially people at high altitudes. Also, he orders a piece of pineapple pie, which I never knew existed, so I kind of feel like I need to try that now because that sounds absolutely delicious. Next, we get a montage of the group hiking and animals continuing to follow them. The group comes upon an empty campsite where the fire is still going, but no one's there, and they decide to set up camp for the night. Here we see the group is having a great time while Steve and Santee decide to keep the fire going all night and take turns guarding the campsite. Susan takes another jab at Frank when he says that the young couple reminds him of a couple he used to know.
Let's just hope he doesn't find any law books to cuddle up with at night.
Steve and Terry chat about how she got into journalism by having an affair with her journalism professor. Weird detail to give to someone you just met 8 hours ago. But what do I know? The best I ever did was hook up with my home ec teacher, Mrs. Tischler. It was her retirement party, and we both ate too much cake, and one thing led to another. But you don't see me going around and telling complete strangers about that. After everyone goes to sleep, Mandy gets attacked by a wolf. See what a bad attitude gets you? The next day, Frank and Mandy head off to the ranger station on their own because Mandy needs medical attention. As they continue walking, Jensen voices his opinion that no weapon, no food policy is stupid. And when Santee offers him a stick for a weapon, we see that Jensen is kind of an asshole.
Me no need spear. Me mighty warrior.
Also, while watching this whole movie, I couldn't help but wonder how much effort was involved with the getting of all the animals, plus their trainers. It seems like it would have just been a huge job to coordinate. Next, we cut to Frank and Mandy walking along while they are being followed by a bird gang. And just when Mandy is getting quite worked up about why the birds are there, one of them decides to take her down with a sonic shout. As Frank tries to help her up, she shares this with him.
God, I hate you! I hate you!
And again, bad attitude. Birds don't like people with bad attitudes. So, obviously the effects here on the fall aren't great. But let this be a lesson. If you're in a relationship and you're having trouble, but your partner is trying, don't be like Mandy, or else birds will kill you. Notice how they're not going after Frank? Just saying. Next, as the group is walking, John says he heard a news report on the radio about ozone radiation. Jensen points out that there is no food and starts calling Steve Hotshot.
Hey, Hotshot, we're out of food.
They decide to head to the food drop spot. Then we see Frank getting a drink when he finds a little girl. My guess is that she was from that empty campsite that they found. But the way this girl is looking, though, he's lucky this didn't turn into a hills have eyes kind of situation. The group makes it to the food drop, but they find that some animals got into it, so they still don't have any food. Steve says that Frank and Mandy should be making it to the ranger station any time now, and that they'll be sending a chopper, so they'll just camp there for the night and wait for it. But that if it's not there by the morning, they'll keep on moving. Now, Jensen disagrees with this, because he feels that Steve has been doing a pretty terrible job leading them, and says that they should just stay there. The group votes against Jensen's idea, and he's kind of sour about it. We cut to the ranger's house, where he gets a phone call explaining that now the army is there, and the whole town is being evacuated. And that he's needed to go there and help. I mean, that sounds pretty important, I bet he rushes right there, right? Or take some time to get a snack, Instead, that works too. But then he gets attacked by rats. Don't worry, though, he doesn't die. Then we are shown that the town is indeed being evacuated. Now, I'm not sure why so many people are walking, though. It kind of looks more like a parade than an evacuation to me. We see that the group has made camp for the night again. Here, Terry randomly brings up that she thinks Roy has cancer. I think she might have Asperger's. We see that people are taking shifts guarding the camp, and when it's Jensen's turn, we see that he has fallen asleep at his post. And a few big cats take advantage of that. Santee and Steve get attacked and fight off the cats, and Roy and the professor fend off a cat with some torches. And I do have to say that this scene with Roy and the professor looks very cinematic. I'm not sure exactly what they did, but I really like it. The next morning, the group goes fishing. This scene afterwards is where you can really see the weird film look I mentioned earlier. Now, I don't know if this was done on purpose to kind of show like the sun is getting more intense, but at times it makes it a little hard to even see the actors. Or this wasn't done by the film crew at all, and we can just see people's auras in this scene. That's probably more likely. Here Steve says that they need to head out. Jensen tells him no, and that he's not in charge anymore. He then talks Bob, Beth, and Mrs. Goodwin, and John by default, into going back up the mountain to the ranger station. It starts to rain, and whoa, where the hell did Jensen's shirt go? It's implied that this group has been through some tough times since splitting up, since their faces are all marked up. But we see here that Jensen takes a totally different approach to leading the group than Steve does.
You little cockroach! You gonna tell me about survival?
Steve's group finds a cave and gets out of the rain. We cut back to Jensen's group where the others start to question his leadership skills. And his response is pretty straightforward. He tells Bob that he's the leader and that he's going to take what he wants. And right now, he wants Beth. Bob goes to stop him, exclaiming,
I'll kill you!
before this happens.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
It jumped up a notch. Yeah, it did. Maybe Jensen is just hangry. Anyone got a Snickers? We then cut back to the cave where Steve says he thought Jensen was acting strangely, and that now he's wondering if the ozone thing is actually affecting more than just animals. Well, here we find out that Roy does indeed have cancer, and I'm not really sure why they included this, other than to have the professor and Santee tell him, everything lives and dies, and that we just have to accept it. We go back to the other group where Jensen tells Mrs. Goodwin that
If you're not satisfied with the arrangements, you can complain to management.
I do have to say, I really like that part. I think it's hilarious. And Leslie Nielsen does make a pretty good bastard. If you want more proof of that, just watch Creepshow. And we also see that Jensen has lost his damn mind. He starts talking to God and tells him that he's going to take what he wants. As he's attempting to do so, Mrs. Goodwin attempts to kill him with a big rock, but he talks her out of it, saying, with him dead, who's going to lead him to safety? And I gotta say, you just watched him kill a guy. I would maybe take my chances without him. While trying to take what he wants with Beth, a bear shows up, and Jensen downs a can of Grizzly Rage and fights the bear. I think Jensen's actually going to win this one. Never mind. Next, we see that Frank and the little girl have made it back to town. But as they are trying to get help, they find out that all the people in the town are gone. After trying their second house, the little girl gets upset and Frank takes a page out of my parenting book, tell them they're bad and they'll stop.
You're a bad girl, bad!
A dog ends up forcing them to get into a stranger's car, and when it won't start, Frank tells the little girl to stay there while he goes and gets his own car and that he'll be right back. When this happens, at least it wasn't the birds that killed him. Here we see that the Goodwins and Beth are going along when they find a helicopter that's crashed. Now, as they're going to get into it, they get chased by a pack of wolves, and they narrowly make it in before finding safety. Steve Group makes it to a logging camp where they discover it has been taken over by a pack of dogs. As they take shelter in one of the cabins, they have to fight off the dogs trying to get in. When the dogs leave, Steve suggests that, hey, they should get out of there before the dogs come back. So they leave. Psych. I love this scene because the dogs actually trick the people. They're all like, if we just hide, then they'll think that we left, and we can get them. Also here, Santee straight up punches a dog in the face. Santee, Terry, and Steve make it out, but Roy and the prof become dog food. Now there's a river nearby where they break off the dock to use as a raft, and they float away. We then get a sunrise with no crazy lens flare, so I think it's indicating that things might be going back to normal. We see that the Goodwins and Beth are still alive, but all the animals are dead. Cut to army guys walking through the town checking for survivors, where we get a report that, indeed, the ozone corrected itself and things are going to go back to normal. The army guys find the little girl, and we also see that Steve, Terry, and Santee are okay too. The end. And now for some fun facts. Susan Backlany, or Mandy, wore many hats for this movie. Not only did she act, she was one of the animal trainers, and she was the stunt double for Linda Day George, or Terry. I'm what you might call fair-skinned, and I actually got a sunburn just by watching all the scenes in this movie that showed the sun. CFC production wasn't banned in the developed countries until 1995. I think I'm gonna go find a bear. So, would I recommend watching Day of the Animals?
Sure.
Yeah, it's a decent movie. Granted, it's a slow burn, but most of the acting is pretty good. It's not a scary movie in the traditional sense, and you do get some great scenic shots too. Plus, you get to see Leslie Nielsen fight a bear. That's reason enough to watch it. If you do want to check it out, I'll put a link in the description where you can watch it for free. Also, if anyone happens to know why certain scenes in this movie really look hazy, let me know in the comments, because I am actually really curious. In my last video, I reviewed a movie called Ticks, so I'll also put a link up for that so you can go check that out too. Well, that's going to do it for today. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time.